and distribution.
बिल्कुल।
So imagine this for a second. आज दुनिया में 8 बिलियन से ज्यादा लोग हैं और हम सब जेनेटिकली स्पीकिंग एक ही महिला के वंशज हैं।
हाँ, जो लगभग 1.5 लाख साल पहले अफ्रीका में रहती थी।
सोच के देखो, इट्स एब्सोल्युटली क्रेजी, राइट?
साइंटिस्ट उन्हें माइटोकॉन्ड्रियल ईव कहते हैं।
और ये कोई कहानी नहीं है, दिस इज प्योर साइंस।
एग्जैक्टली।
जानना चाहेंगे कैसे? तो चलिए हमारे साथ इस अमेजिंग जर्नी पर।
एंड हाँ, इफ यू आर इंटरेस्टेड इन दीज काइंड्स ऑफ डीप एक्सप्लोरेशंस ऑफ साइंस एंड हिस्ट्री, तो जल्दी से सब्सक्राइब बटन दबाइए,
लाइक कीजिए एंड डेफिनेटली टर्न ऑन दैट नोटिफिकेशन बेल ताकि आप कोई भी एडवेंचर मिस ना करें।
सो हियर्स आवर लर्निंग मैप फॉर टुडे। आज हम ह्यूमन एवोल्यूशन की पूरी कहानी को लेयर बाय लेयर खोलेंगे।
ओके।
सबसे पहले वी विल लुक एट इंडियाज रोल इन दिस एपिक स्टोरी। क्या इंडिया भी ह्यूमन एवोल्यूशन का एक क्रेडल लैंड था?
इंटरेस्टिंग। फिर हम मॉडर्न ह्यूमंस की ओरिजिन पर सबसे बड़ी डिबेट में उतरेंगे, द आउट ऑफ अफ्रीका मॉडल वर्सेस द मल्टी रीजनल मॉडल।
राइट।
बेसिकली क्या हम सब एक जगह से आए या पूरी दुनिया में एक साथ इवॉल्व हुए? काफी इंटेंस डिबेट है ये।
बिल्कुल। इसके बाद वी विल एग्जामिन द एविडेंस, विल लुक एट क्लूज फ्रॉम डीएनए, फ्रॉम फॉसिल्स एंड इवन फ्रॉम आवर पैरासाइट्स। हम मिलेंगे माइटोकॉन्ड्रियल ईव और वाई क्रोमोसोमल एडम से।
And it gets even cooler. We will meet our recently discovered ancestors, जैसे कि Littlefoot, the Hobbit man,
एंड गेट दिस।
एक निएंडरथॉल और डेनिसोवन हाइब्रिड बच्चा।
एग्जैक्टली। फाइनली हम देखेंगे कि ये सारी डिस्कवरीज आज हमारे लिए क्या मीनिंग रखती हैं।
So let's unpack this.
टॉपिक।
India as cradle land for human evolution.
ऑलराइट, चलिए शुरू करते हैं। सो द बिग क्वेश्चन हियर इज, जब हम ह्यूमन एवोल्यूशन की ग्रेट स्टोरी की बात करते हैं, तो इंडिया कहाँ फिट होता है?
Perfect question to start with.
Was ancient India a significant stage for this drama? Africa, Java और चाइना की तरह?
Exactly.
So, इसको आगे बढ़ाते हैं। Short definition. This topic examines whether India was a primary center for ancient human evolution, similar to the roles played by Africa, Java and China. We are basically searching for India's rank in the hominid story.
Got it.
रियल लाइफ एग्जाम्पल। इमेजिन कीजिए आप नॉर्थ में शिवालिक हिल्स में ट्रेकिंग कर रहे हैं,
Okay.
और अचानक यू स्टम्बल अपॉन अ फॉसिलाइज्ड जॉ बोन। आपके लिए वो शायद सिर्फ एक पत्थर हो, बट फॉर आर्कियोलॉजिस्ट्स इट्स लाइक फाइंडिंग अ ट्रेजर चेस्ट।
एक छोटा सा फॉसिल लाखों साल पुरानी कहानी बता सकता है. And that's exactly what happened in India.
Cool. So let's get into the content discussion. Where do we begin?
Introduction. Let's start with a hard fact. The sources are very clear कि fossil evidence of ancestral humans in India is, quote, meager.
Meager. मतलब काफी कम।
हाँ, काफी कम है compared to other places. But, and this is important, जो भी evidence मिला है, it's very, very significant.
Okay.
Background. For a long time, anthropologists Homo erectus के पूर्वजों की तलाश में थे. They needed that missing link. So, जब इंडिया में fossils मिलने लगे, especially from the Siwalik Hills, it generated a lot of excitement and interest globally. सबको लगा शायद आगे की कड़ी यही मिलेगी. The hunt was on.
Right, I can imagine. Core logic. Now let's talk about the key fossils. There are three main players here. First, from the Shivalik Hills, we got Paleopithecus, Sivapithecus, and Ramapithecus.
Ramapithecus. ये नाम तो सुना हुआ लगता है.
Exactly. Ramapithecus was a huge deal when it was first discovered. For a while, it was considered the oldest hominid, our direct ancestor. It was in all the textbooks.
Was. So, अब नहीं है. This is interesting.
Correct. This is where science gets cool, because it self-corrects. A scientist named Pilbeam and 1990 में suggest किया कि Ramapithecus was actually the female of the Sivapithecus species.
अच्छा.
The main difference was in the size of the canine teeth. Sivapithecus, the male, had large canines, while Ramapithecus, the female, had smaller ones.
Wow.
So the current theory is that both of them were ancestors to the orangutan, not humans. समझे? एक textbook hero, अब एक side character है.
That's a huge shift. Okay, next कौन है?
Next we have Homo erectus nirmadensis. This one is fascinating. It was discovered by Arun Sonakia in the Narmada Valley at a place called Hathnora.
Okay.
Initially, इसे बहुत पुराना माना गया, but later dating showed it belonged to the archaic sapiens group. Its presence probably indicates one of the incursions or migrations of African or Chinese erectus populations into Indian territory.
So, एक visitor था, resident नहीं.
Precisely. And finally, the giant one, Gigantopithecus bilaspuriensis, from Bilaspur.
Giganto. मतलब बहुत बड़ा.
Massive. Gigantopithecus is considered an offshoot of erectus evolution that ended in what we call a blind alley.
एक मिनट, blind alley, इसका मतलब क्या है?
Great question. A blind alley in evolution means a species that evolved, existed for a while, but ultimately went extinct without contributing any of its genes to the modern human lineage.
So, a dead end.
A dead end. It was a failed evolutionary experiment.
Understood.
Real-world impact. So, what's the verdict on India's role? Based on the evidence we have so far, the conclusion is that in matters of hominid evolution, India can only be rated after Africa, Java, and China.
Okay, so we are on the list, but not at the top.
Exactly. Conclusion. But the story isn't over. The source material ends on a very hopeful and slightly critical note. It says that no serious attempt to discover the fossils has been made in India and that many secrets may be hidden in the bowel of the earth.
So there's potentially a lot more to find.
Absolutely.
Fantastic. Now, to be absolutely clear, does this mean that Ramapithecus was not a human ancestor जैसे पहले सोचा गया था?
Exactly. Current theory connects it to the orangutan's evolutionary line. It shows how science self-corrects with new discoveries and better analysis.
What was a textbook fact 40 years ago is now a footnote in history.
Perfectly said.
Yaad rakhna.
Okay, and the Homo erectus fossil from Narmada Valley, why is it so special again?
It's special because it's one of the rare, direct pieces of evidence of Homo erectus presence in India. It physically connects the subcontinent to the larger story of ancient human migration across continents. It proves they were here.
Do you think it's possible that a future discovery in India could completely change this entire narrative? Absolutely. That's the beauty of archaeology and paleontology. A single well-preserved fossil from the right time period could rewrite the entire timeline. The story is never truly finished.
Last question on this. In all these different fossils, Ramapithecus, Narmada Man Gigantopithecus, what is the common thread? What's the one big takeaway?
The common thread is that they all show us the incredible complexity and diversity of the human family tree. Evolution wasn't a straight line from ape to human.
Right.
It was more like a dense, tangled bush with many different branches growing at the same time, and many of them simply died out.
Perfect. Practice cue. Now pause and practice saying this part aloud. In matters of hominid evolution, India can only be rated after Africa, Java, and China.
Mini recap. In short, India has yielded important fossils, but based on the evidence so far, it was not the main center of human evolution.
Topic: the great debate, single origin versus multi-regional.
Yes.
Okay, let's move on to one of the biggest debates in paleoanthropology. How modern humans, Homo sapiens, spread across the world. There are two main theories.
और इसको आसान भाषा में समझें तो it's like this. Are we all one big family of migrants who came from the same hometown?
Okay.
या फिर are we a collection of different families from different towns who over time started looking and acting like each other? That's the core of the debate.
Right. Let's start with the champion, the most widely accepted theory today. Subtopic: the single African origin model, out of Africa model.
Short definition, the out of Africa model, also called the replacement model, says that anatomically modern Homo sapiens evolved only in Africa, somewhere between 100,000 to 200,000 years ago.
Only in Africa.
Yes, then a small group of them migrated out of Africa and spread across the entire globe, replacing all the pre-existing archaic human populations they encountered.
Replacing them.
Real-life example. Think of it like a software update. Homo erectus was version 1.0 installed all over the world.
Okay.
Then, in Africa, version 2.0, Homo sapiens, was developed. This new version was then installed everywhere, and it overwrote the old 1.0 version completely.
That's a great analogy. Let's get into the content discussion.
Introduction. This is by far the most accepted theory. The main point is one origin and then global dispersal. It's a story of a single, recent origin for all modern humans.
Right.
Background: a scientist named Chris Stringer popularized this model in 1988. He argued that all the racial differences we see today, skin color, hair texture, etc., are very recent, developing only in the last 100,000 years after we left Africa.
So, very recent in evolutionary terms.
Very recent. Core logic. According to another scientist, William Howells, the logic goes like this. Homo erectus had already spread out from Africa much earlier and developed in different regions. But all the Homo erectus populations outside of Africa eventually became extinct.
Okay.
The modern humans who later came out of Africa were a new separate wave. The reason all humans today are so similar is because this new modern form from Africa simply replaced all the older forms. There was no mixing, just replacement.
So the word replacement sounds a bit harsh. Did our ancestors fight and kill the older populations like Neanderthals?
Not necessarily. Replacement could mean many things. It could mean the newcomers had better technology, so they were better at competing for resources.
Like food and shelter?
Exactly. It could mean they had a higher birth rate. Over thousands of years, they could have simply outnumbered the older populations. Direct violent conflict ka evidence काफी scarce hai.
Okay. So, according to this strict model, what happened to the Neanderthals?
According to the strict replacement model, they were a separate species that was outcompeted by modern humans and eventually went extinct. They were a dead end.
But you said strict model. Is there a twist?
There is a big twist to that story. Yaad rakhna isko. We'll come back to it.
Okay. If we all came from the same place 2 lakh years ago, how did so much physical diversity, like different skin colors, arise?
That's a result of adaptation to local environments. For example, darker skin pigmentation provides protection from strong UV radiation, an advantage in sunny regions.
Right.
Lighter skin is an advantage in regions with less sunlight for producing vitamin D. On an evolutionary scale, these changes happen very, very quickly.
And why is it called the out of Africa theory? Seems obvious, but let's clarify.
Because it proposes that the dispersal of modern humans happened out of Africa, moving into the rest of the world. Simple as that.
Does this theory have any other names?
Yes, it's also called the Recent Single Origin Hypothesis, or RSSOH for short, and as we mentioned, the replacement model. All mean the same thing.
Got it. Practice cue. Let's practice saying the out of Africa model suggests a recent African origin for all modern humans, followed by replacement of archaic populations.
Mini recap. In short, इस मॉडल के अनुसार we are all part of a recent African migrant story.
Subtopic: multi-regional continuity model. Now for the other side of the debate, the challenger theory.
Short definition. This model offers a completely different picture. It suggests that human evolution has been a continuous process across the entire world for the last million years.
A million years?
Yes, it says that modern humans didn't come from just one place. Instead, archaic populations in different regions, Africa, Europe, Asia, all evolved towards modern humanity together.
Together. How?
Real life example. इसको ऐसे सोचो, instead of one city developing a new technology and sharing it, this model suggests that cities all over the world were connected by a super fast internet and they all developed the new technology together, sharing ideas and updates constantly. The keyword is connection.
That's a huge difference. Let's get into the content discussion.
Introduction. This was the main alternative. The core idea here is continuity, not replacement. It proposes deep, ancient roots for human populations in their own regions.
So the opposite of out of Africa?
Completely. Background. Scientists like Milford Wolfpoff and Alan Thorne were big proponents in the late 80s and early 90s. They looked at the fossil record and saw what they believed was a continuous sequence of evolution in different parts of the world.
Okay.
Core logic. The model suggests that racial variations we see today are actually very ancient, going back hundreds of thousands of years. The key mechanism that kept everyone evolving together was gene flow.
Gene flow. Practical मतलब क्या है इसका?
Basically, interbreeding between populations. Constant gene exchange between groups of Homo erectus and archaic sapiens across different regions allowed modern traits to develop and spread everywhere.
So they weren't isolated.
Not at all. They argue that you can see certain regional morphological features, like the shape of cheekbones in Asia, persisting in fossils for millions of years, showing this regional continuity.
What was the biggest piece of evidence for this model?
The main evidence came from those fossils that seemed to show regional characteristics persisting for so long. For example, certain features in ancient Chinese fossils are also seen in modern East Asian populations.
तो ये model इतना popular क्यों नहीं है? What was the killer blow?
Primarily because the genetic evidence, which we'll discuss next, is overwhelmingly in favor of the out of Africa model.
The DNA.
Yes. For instance, the pattern of genetic diversity across the globe, with the highest diversity in Africa, strongly points to an African origin. Genetics changed the game completely.
So this is a really important question. Could there be some truth in both models? Maybe a mix?
What a great question. और इसका जवाब है हाँ. Absolutely. Modern research, especially since we've been able to sequence DNA from Neanderthals and Denisovans, shows that the replacement wasn't 100% complete.
Oh.
There was some interbreeding. So the most accurate picture today is something like out of Africa with a little bit of multi-regional mixing.
So the multi-regional model wasn't completely wrong then?
We can say that its central aspect of gene flow was correct, even if its core idea that we evolved simultaneously everywhere was not. It correctly identified a key process, even if it got the main narrative wrong.
So it lost the battle, but won a small victory.
A very small but important victory.
Got it. Practice cue. Practice saying the multi-regional model proposes continuous evolution with gene flow among archaic populations across the globe.
Mini recap. In short, this model suggests that we all evolved through a global, interconnected network, an idea that had a kernel of truth.
Topic. The evidence trail. Following the clues. Out of Africa.
The exciting part.
All right. Now for the juicy part. If the out of Africa theory is the champion, where is the proof?
Exactly. This section is all about the scientific evidence. It's like a detective story, है ना? हर सुराग, चाहे वो एक पुरानी हड्डी का टुकड़ा हो या DNA का एक छोटा सा sequence, points to the same suspect.
In this case, Africa. Awesome. Let's start with the basics. Subtopic. Fossil evidences.
Short definition. This is the evidence from the physical remains of our ancestors. We look at where the oldest fossils of modern humans are found.
The photo album analogy.
Yes, content discussion. The fossil record shows at least 3 major migrations out of Africa. First, with Homo erectus around 1.6 million years ago. Second, Homo heidelbergensis about 500,000 years ago. And the third, and most important for our story, with Homo sapiens around 60,000 to 70,000 years ago.
Okay.
But here's the key. The oldest anatomically modern human fossils are found in Africa. Sites like Omo Kibish in Ethiopia have fossils dating back to nearly 200,000 years. This is much, much older than any modern human fossils found in Europe or Asia.
So the timeline points directly to Africa.
Exactly.
Okay, fossils are one thing, but the real game changer was DNA, right? Let's dive into the evidences from nuclear DNA. This is a big section, so let's break it down.
Yes, let's start with part A, support from microsatellite study.
Microsatellites.
Short definition. They are small, repetitive segments of DNA that have a very high mutation rate. So they change quickly over time, making them great for tracking recent history.
Got it.
Evidence. A 1994 study by Baucock looked at these and found that the highest level of variation was in African populations. More variation means the population is older because there has been more time for these mutations to accumulate.
Simple logic. More time, more changes. Okay, part B. Support from mitochondrial DNA, mtDNA. This is a big one.
This is huge. Short definition. mtDNA is the DNA inside our mitochondria. We only inherit it from our mothers with no mixing from the father. It passes down the maternal line almost unchanged. It's a perfect evolutionary clock.
Right.
Evidence. The evidence from it is stunning. First, when you build a family tree of all human mtDNA, the root of the tree and all the branches closest to the root are exclusively African. The oldest lineages are all in Africa.
Wow.
Second, all non-African populations carry only a small subset of the total African mtDNA diversity. The story is crystal clear. A small group of people carrying only a fraction of the available mtDNA types walked out of Africa.
That's powerful. Okay, on to part C. Support from Y chromosome variation, the male side of the story.
Precisely. Short definition. The Y chromosome is passed down from father to son unshuffled. It tells the paternal story.
And
The story it tells is the same. African populations show the greatest genetic variation in the Y chromosome, but here's a fascinating discrepancy. The MRCA for mtDNA, our mitochondrial Eve, is estimated to have lived around 1.5 to 2 lakh years ago.
okay,
But the MRCA for the Y chromosome, Y chromosomal Adam, is much more recent, only about 60,000 years ago.
so if Y chromosomal Adam came about 1 lakh years after mitochondrial Eve, does that mean at that time there was only one man on Earth?
No, absolutely not. That's a common misconception. It simply means that of all the men alive 60,000 years ago, only one man's direct paternal line has survived unbroken to every single man alive today. The paternal lines of all his male contemporaries eventually broke.
Ah, okay. That's a key distinction. What about part D? Evidences from other nuclear DNA.
The evidence keeps piling up. When we look at autosomal DNA, the DNA from our other chromosomes, we find the same pattern. For example, most genomic regions show that ancestral sequences are found among Africans.
So it's consistent across the board.
Incredibly consistent.
Okay, one last piece of genetic evidence. Part E. Evidences from linkage disequilibrium. This sounds complicated.
Let's simplify it. Short definition. Linkage disequilibrium is a measure of how shuffled a population's genes are. A young population is like a new, unshuffled deck of cards. An old population is like a well-shuffled deck.
Okay, I like that analogy.
Evidence. Studies have found that linkage disequilibrium is significantly higher in populations outside of Africa. This means they are younger populations. It's lower in Africa, which is a clear sign of an older, more established population.
The card deck was good. Can you simplify the phrase genetic diversity is highest in Africa with another analogy?
Zarur. Imagine Africa is a library that contains 1,000 original books. When a small group of people decided to leave and start a new library elsewhere, they could only carry 100 books with them.
Right.
So the new library outside Africa will only have variations of those 100 books. But the original library in Africa still has all 1,000. That's what we see in our genes.
That makes perfect sense. So, is all this genetic evidence 100% conclusive?
In science, nothing is ever 100%. But when you have so many different, independent lines of evidence, mDNA, yDNA, autosomal DNA, and they all point to the exact same conclusion, the case becomes incredibly strong.
As close to a fact as we can get. Brilliant. Now for something completely different. Subtopic. Evidences from parasites.
Yes, this is so cool. We can even look at the genetics of the creatures that live on and in us.
Parasites? Seriously?
Seriously, take the human louse. It can only live on humans. Its history is our history. When scientists analyze the genes of human lice from around the world, their genetic family tree perfectly mirrors the human one, tracing back to Africa.
The lice migrated with us.
They did. Similarly, the bacterium Helicobacter pylori that lives in our stomachs shows the highest genetic diversity in East Africa, and this diversity decreases the further you get from there. Our parasites are historical records.
That is just mind-blowing. Practice Q. Practicing multiple lines of genetic evidence, from mtDNA to linkage disk equilibrium, consistently point to an African origin for modern humans.
Mini recap. In short, the story written in our DNA and even in our parasites clearly states that our journey began in Africa.
Topic.
The MRCA, the most recent common ancestor.
The family reunion.
Okay, let's meet our famous ancestors.
Right, so let's break down this concept of the MRCA. Short definition. The most recent common ancestor, MRCA, is the most recent individual from which all organisms in a group are directly descended.
Like our common grandparents?
Exactly. Real-life example. Think about your own family tree. If you and your first cousins trace your parents and grandparents back, you will eventually arrive at a common set of grandparents. The MRCA is the same idea, but for all of humanity.
On a much bigger scale.
A much bigger scale.
Content discussion. Introduction. We'll be using terms like MRCA, tMRCA, and LCA. This concept is important because it allows us to use those special genetic markers to trace our ancestry back to a single point in the past.
Okay.
Core logic. Let's meet the stars. A. Mitochondrial Eve, mtMRCA. She is the woman from whom all living humans today descend through an unbroken matrilineal line, mother to mother's mother, and so on.
And when did she live?
The estimates place her around 160,000 years ago, likely in East Africa. And let's be super clear, she was not the only woman alive. She was one of thousands.
And so what happened to the others?
Their lines simply broke at some point. A woman might have only had sons, and sons don't pass on mTNA. Or her entire line of daughters might have died out. Only Eve's line got lucky and made it all the way through.
Wow. Okay, now for B. Y chromosomal Adam, YTMRCA.
Same concept, but for the patrilineal line, father to son. He is the man from whom the Y chromosome of all living men is descended. He lived much more recently, around 60,000 years ago, also in Africa.
So they didn't know each other. They weren't a couple.
No, absolutely not. They lived nearly 100,000 years apart. They're just nicknames taken from the biblical story to make the concept easier to understand.
That's a huge paradox, though. Why the 1 lakh year gap?
The best explanation is Bateman's principle. In most species, there's a much greater variance in the number of offspring for males than for females. Some males have a huge number of children, while many have none at all. This makes the male lineage converge much more recently.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, what is this identical ancestors point, IAP? This sounds wild.
It is wild. The IAP is the point in time in the past when all humans alive can be divided into two groups. Those who left no descendants today and those who are the common ancestors of everyone alive today.
And when was this?
This point is shockingly recent, estimated to be between 5,000 and 15,000 years ago.
Wait, what? Can you simplify that?
Zarur. It means that anyone who lived, say, 10,000 years ago and has any living descendant today is an ancestor to you, me, and everyone listening. We are all cousins, and much more recently than we think.
That is genuinely mind-blowing. So my MRCA could be different from the MRCA of someone born 100 years from now.
Yes, the MRCA is a moving target. It is always defined in relation to the population that is currently living.
Perfect. Practice Q. Practice saying mitochondrial Eve is the matrilineal most recent common ancestor of all living humans, but she lived about 100,000 years before Y chromosomal Adam.
Mini recap. In short, we are all connected to a matrilineal Eve and a patrilineal Adam, which makes us one big global family.
Topic: the ever-growing family tree. New discoveries?
The plot thickens.
Okay, this is amazing. But the story gets even more crowded and complex. Let's look at recent advances.
Short definition. This section covers all the exciting fossil discoveries from recent years that have completely shaken up our understanding of human evolution.
The jigsaw puzzle with new pieces.
Exactly. Content discussion. Hominids of great age. Let's start with the really old ones. Sahelanthropus chadensis from Chad, 7 to 6 million years ago. Currently the oldest known hominid.
Wow.
Then there's Ardi or Ardipithecus from Ethiopia, 4.4 million years old. Ardi was a facultative biped. She could walk on two legs on the ground, but was still climbing trees on all fours.
A mix.
A mix. New finds of Australopithecines. We have A. garhi from 2.6 million years ago, found with stone tools, which push back the evidence for tool use by a whole million years.
A million years?
Yes. Notable individual fossils. We have Selam, a 3-year-old Afarensis girl. Her skeleton shows mosaic evolution. Her lower body was for walking, but her upper body was for climbing. And then there's Littlefoot.
Littlefoot.
An A-Prometheus skeleton, 3.67 million years old and 90% complete, way more than Lucy.
90%?
That's incredible.
It is.
Proto-humans and Archaeac sapiens. The cast of characters expands. We have Homo floresiensis, the Hobbit man, a tiny human species from Indonesia that survived until maybe 14,000 years ago.
The hobbits were real.
In a way. Then we have the Denisovans, discovered from just a tiny finger bone in a Siberian cave. And then there's Homo naledi, discovered deep in a cave system in South Africa.
Homo naledi. Where do we place this species in our family tree?
That's a huge ongoing debate. They lived very recently, but their brains were as small as an Australopithecian's. They don't fit neatly anywhere. It shows that evolution is not a neat ladder.
It's messy.
Very messy. Hybrid hominids. This is the showstopper. Scientists found a 90,000-year-old bone fragment of a teenage girl nicknamed Denny.
Okay.
Her DNA analysis showed that her mother was a Neanderthal and her father was a Denisovan.
Whoa.
So Denny is the big deal, the smoking gun for interbreeding.
Exactly.
It's the first direct physical evidence of it. It proves that these different human groups weren't just living side by side. They were meeting and having children. It's mind-blowing.
And what's new with Neanderthals? Our perception has changed so much.
So much new facts about Neanderthals. They walked upright. They gave us genes to fight diseases. They created cave art and had a larger lung capacity than us. They were not brutish cavemen.
Do all these new discoveries weaken the out-of-Africa model?
No, not at all. They just make it more nuanced. The model still holds that our species, Homo sapiens, evolved in Africa. But these discoveries show that when our ancestors migrated out, the world wasn't empty.
Right, it was full of our cousins.
And we interacted and interbred with them.
Practice Q. Practicing recent discoveries like Homo naledi and the hybrid Denny reveal that human evolution was not a linear path, but a complex web of interacting species.
Mini recap. In short, our family tree is not a straight line, but a dense, tangled bush filled with many surprising relatives.
Topic: bottlenecks and highways, Toba catastrophe, and Sahara pump.
Now the big environmental forces.
Now, let's look at the bigger forces that shaped our journey.
Short definition. This section looks at two major environmental theories that explain how large-scale events shaped human population size and migration patterns.
The bottleneck and the highway.
Yes. Content discussion. 6.1 Toba catastrophe theory. Around 75,000 years ago, a supervolcano at what is now Lake Toba in Indonesia erupted. It was a massive event.
Okay.
The theory suggests it plunged the planet into a severe volcanic winter that lasted for years. This caused a massive die-off, reducing the entire global human population to a tiny number, perhaps only 1,000 to 10,000 breeding pairs.
That's a population bottleneck. So we almost went extinct.
We almost went extinct. It dramatically reduced our genetic diversity.
Is the Toba theory accepted by all scientists?
No, there is still some debate. Some archaeological evidence from places like India suggests that human populations there may have survived the event without a complete collapse. It's an active area of research.
Okay. Now for the highway. 6.2, the Sahara pump theory.
This hypothesis is about climate change in the Sahara. Over long cycles, the Sahara has fluctuated between being a dry desert and a wet green savanna.
Right.
During its wet green periods, the Sahara acted like a corridor or a pump, allowing animals and humans to migrate easily between Africa and Eurasia. When it turned dry again, it became a barrier.
So the Sahara pump was literally like an on-off switch for migration?
Exactly. It periodically opened the door out of Africa and then slammed it shut, controlling the flow of populations over hundreds of thousands of years. It was the gatekeeper of our global expansion.
What is the relevance of these theories in the context of today's climate change?
It's a very powerful reminder of how dependent our species has always been on environmental stability. Our entire history has been shaped by climate shifts.
A lesson for the present.
A huge one.
Practice Q. Practice saying the Toba catastrophe created a population bottleneck, while the Sahara pump acted as a gateway for human migrations out of Africa.
Many recap. In short, massive environmental events have shaped our story of survival and spread.
Wow, what a journey. Time for a full recap and content imbibing.
Let's do it. Broad, micro theme, human evolution.
And distribution.
Okay, let's summarize. First, we saw that India has yielded some important hominid fossils, but the main story of human evolution, based on current evidence, took place in Africa.
Right.
Second, we explored the out-of-Africa and multi-regional models with overwhelming evidence supporting the out-of-Africa model.
Check.
Third, we followed the evidence trail in our DNA, fossils, and even our parasites, all pointing to an African origin.
The parasites were my favorite part.
Fourth, we met mitochondrial Eve and Y-chromosomal Adam, who show that we are all one surprisingly recent global family.
Mind-blowing stuff.
Fifth, we saw that our family tree is a complex bush with relatives like Neanderthals and Denisovans, and we now have proof that interbreeding happened.
A messy, tangled bush.
Exactly. And finally, we saw how massive environmental events like the Toba catastrophe and the Sahara pump acted as major forces shaping our history.
Fantastic. Now, dost, it's time for some content probes. Sawal aapke diye, so you can test yourself. Think about the answers to these. 1. Explain the out-of-Africa model using 3 main pieces of evidence.
2. Why did mitochondrial Eve and Y-chromosomal Adam live at different times?
3. What was the strongest argument of the multi-regional model?
4. Name 3 new things we have recently learned about Neanderthals.
5. Why is the fossil of Denny so incredibly special?
And 6. How does the Sahara pump theory explain human migration?
Great questions.
And now for today's challenge. Try to explain to a friend or a family member in just 1 minute why we say all humans came out of Africa.
Ooh, a 1-minute challenge.
In your argument, make sure to use 1 piece of fossil evidence, like the Homo kibish fossils, and 1 piece of genetic evidence, like the high genetic diversity in Africa. See if you can do it.
So what does this all mean? It means our story is still being written. Every newborn, every newly sequenced genome peels back another layer of our past. It reminds us that we are an incredibly resilient and curious species that journeyed out from a single African homeland. The next time you meet anyone, anywhere in the world, just remember, you're meeting a very, very distant cousin.
That's a beautiful thought. Until next time, keep learning and keep asking questions.
अगर आपको ये गहरी पड़ताल पसंद आई, तो प्लीज सब्सक्राइब करना, कमेंट सेक्शन में अपने थॉट्स शेयर करना, and share it with that one friend who's always thinking about the bigger picture. Thanks for joining us.